The Royal Australian Trouser Club boasts the widest travel connections in Africa. To celebrate the new Slaven Nilsson contact list, try this tour on for size. Week 1, 7 days in the bowels of a Moroccan jail in Rabat, where the commissar will be handed a file marked, "Is worth nothing, never to be released. Do as you please." Week 2, being strung up by the heels from a Congolese date palm in the floodplain of the Blue Nile, with the head 16 centimetres below the high tide line. Week 3, the trip climaxes with your release from the passenger side of a police vehicle in downtown Soweto, where the driver says loudly, "Thanks for your valuable leads," as you're left trouserless, warmed only by a bright Dayglow t-shirt bearing the logo, "N Mandela is a joke." Week 4, 7 fun-filled days begging with Madagascar's only Buddhist monk. Week 5 sees you taking special care of Eugene Terreblanche's Rottweilers. That's the Royal House of Trouser African Tour, for the person with an abundance of fitness, an absence of fear, and an abundance of funds. Ring Bakila Abidi or Kip Kino and whisper, "King Farouk."
Yes, Roy, I suppose we have to deal with the palace. They're always on the blower, trying to get us correct things, misinterpretations.
Yeah.
I was staggered to see that after the squidgy and fatty tapes this week, that the Sun decided to hand a couple back to the palace. That's the newspaper in London, the Sun.
Yes.
These were ostensibly of a row, a bit of a blue between the Duchess of York and the Duke of York.
Right.
And,
well, why? Isn't it in the public interest that these be broadcast?
I would have thought it was definitely in the 00555 number
Yes.
interest of whoever owns those lines to be broadcast. But, Roy, we come to the photos and really there's nothing more to be said.
Yes. It's just a couple of young people enjoying each other's company. That's all I saw. It didn't surprise me at all. You and I have been to parties that have been attended by members of the royal family, including the Duchess of York, and it's I suppose it's difficult.
It's so easy to misinterpret things, isn't it?
And I guess it's difficult for people to understand, listeners to understand this, that it is the most normal thing in the world at these parties for people to take their clothes off, and if they feel they have struck someone with whom they share some sort of physical compatibility, to act upon it. There is no value made, no value judgment made at all. It's just that you're having a good time, enjoying someone's company and enjoying the physical excitement of chewing the fat, so to speak, in a physical way with someone else. Just a little bit of human congress for lonely, wealthy people. That's all it is. That's all I saw. We've been to many of these parties, HG, that had someone taken photographs or videoed it. You or I could be in just as difficult a position as... Indeed.
What I was going to say, Roy, is remember the furore about the book, I think it might have been the Mad Mort's book, concerning the suicide attempts?
Yes.
I think we broke that story, and I hope we've cleared that up, that people in the royal family just love hurling themselves at things. They love being locked in the boots of cars and struggling to get out. They love taking a shotgun and see if they can stick it in their throat and pull the trigger at the same time. They're like that. It's fun. It's harmless hijinks. But the world outside sees this as desperate pleas for help from terribly lonely people who are obviously hell-bent on destroying themselves.
Well, look, I think that's right. I think that's right, actually. I mean, if, for example, the Thai kitty representing the IOC was in town, and we did have a bit of a dinner, say you and me and Arthur Tunstall and Donnie Talbot and the kitty, and we had a few other people come along. If just a normal, average, ordinary suburban night, we sat around, we have a bit of finger food and maybe a bit of chook and a bit of trifle for dessert or something like that, and it's all very good, and at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, thanks very much, good night. If at that sort of do, someone, say Donnie Talbot, was to drop his dogs and start making overtures at one of the other guests, who shall remain nameless. If that was to happen, it would be unacceptable. At a royal do, that's what happens all the time. You know, and whenever I've been there and things have got a little bit what I would call Ludy style, I have had to enter into the spirit, otherwise people call you a prude and laugh at you. So what do? You like everyone else, you take your trousers off, you hang them over in the back of your chair, you take your underpants off, you stick them with your serviette, and you just plug on. don't you?
Well, it is true, Roy. I'll never forget the first time I encountered this, and it certainly changed my way of thinking with the chocolates.
Yes.
Now, stories were...
With a funnel.
Yeah, that's right.
Shoveling them in.
Yeah, stories were breaking in the newspaper about the chocoholic madness that was going on in royal circles.
Yes.
And, of course, as you say, within their world, it is perfectly acceptable, obviously, at the end of a night's hard eating, to be hurled back in your chair on the floor and have a person coming along like Billy Bonds, no longer with the organisation, the firm, thanks very much, sorry, but you saw him there in that beautiful picture of the Queen doing the candelabra
with
the
the funny socks. Yeah.
With the funny socks. He comes along, puts a funnel in your mouth, forces your teeth open, and pours in a couple of tons of Cadbury's milk tray followed by a bit of black magic and winning post. You love it. However,
Well, of course.
other people think this is excess.
Well, of course, and it's no... You know, if Prince Philip wants to roll over and put the funnel down below and have the chockies driven in that way, that's all right too. I mean, it is perfectly acceptable royal behaviour.
And people
because these are people who can do what they bloody well like.
Don't have to pay much for it, according to the tax person. Now, what happens is you're looking at history, you're looking at tradition, you're looking at things that date from before Victoria's time. You go back to the Harold of Hastings, before that even, to the bloke who burnt the scones. I forget his name. What was his name?
Oh, I can't remember. Arthur.
No, Alfred. Alfred the Great. Yeah, even before that.
He lost an arm, lost an eye or something.
No, that's Harold.
Harold. Yeah.
Yeah, the bloke who burnt the scones when he's shooting out planning a battle strategy and so on. They're all on the job. All the time, whether there be chocolates, suicide attempts, obviously funny suicide
on the job,
or tool-wise, bed flute-wise.
Yes. They're always wanting to play elaborate notes on the flute.
High seas.
High seas.
That's high sea above high seas.
Exactly.
And what the public...
Because they haven't got a job.
That's right. They've got nothing better to do with their time.
All they've got is a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of opportunity to get up to no good.
And they do it.
But
this doesn't allow the...
I was told, keep your hands out of your pockets, Slavin, because the devil mucks
around.
Idle hands.
Rose Hancock said that to me.
Well, here we got people who have been paid enormous sums of money to sit around with their hands in their trousers. And they wonder then that things go a little bit off course. We've had people discover them with high telephoto lenses. Just in the past, the media hasn't... the media sat on this information. They haven't let it out. Well, now the media's starting to tell the truth. And I'm happy to say that we have been telling the truth for many years now. I don't want to blow our own trumpets here.
No. Well, we're not
blowing any trumpets here.
The great thing, though, the service that we're doing to the public, I think, is asking them to reassess.
Yes.
Was there anything out of the ordinary happening here?
Yes, and the answer is no.
Wide On Films believes Australia's future lies in Asia. So much so that their latest film, Hell in Manchuria, documents in graphic form the Japanese invasion of the Chinese mainland between the Great Wars and the subsequent imbroglio that led to Tojo's great understatement to Emperor Hirohito in March 1938. No worries, sport. We can take this lot on up front. A unique aspect of this epic is that the invading Japanese army is played exclusively by registered first-grade rugby league players, while the Chinese mainland defenders who valiantly tried to repel the offshore invaders are played solely by past and present AFL players. Cinema buffs will thrill to the unusual casting possibilities that this approach allows. See Dermot Brereton as the young, firebrand Mao Zedong, while Jason Dunstall fills the screen as Sun Yat-sen. And on the other side, Trevor the Axe Skillmeister gives the performance of his career as the young Tojo, chock-a-block full of the angry pills, while a very threatening Peter Sterling packs down as the evil Nakasone. Hell in Manchuria is a film for all us Asians down here on the Pacific Rim. Right on, wide on.
Yeah. Is this right, Roy? That women on the terraces are going to the matches and not looking at blocker ropes go round. They're not looking at Cement Gillespie. They're not looking at the brick with eyes, Glenn Lazarus. And they're looking to the likes of Brian Smith, Willie Kahn, Billy Moore.
I find it hard to believe.
Happening to the league marketing, Roy?
Yes, I do find it hard to believe. See, many of the women I speak to, they do like, you know, big, lumbering, hard, fit fiddlers. And I don't think that the 12 we're getting for our months of the year in 1993...
I think we'd be short-changed.
Thanks very much, Trout family. I don't think it looks good. I don't think it's good. I think what we're seeing is a little bit slim-hipped. And I'm sure Terry Lamb wouldn't mind me saying that. I've said that to Terry's face. I said, Terry, bulk up downstairs a little bit if you want to be taken seriously by the opposite sex.
Roy, you don't need the stretch camera to fit these blokes in. Do you know what I mean?
I know. What, when they're excited?
You can have the stretch camera in the vertical position and you get it all in really
You do get it all in.
Whereas when you got big men, your Bobby Ellen nose, your cement Gillespie's, your brick with eyes, your chock-a-block full of the angry pills axe.
Yes.
That's when you need your stretch camera in the horizontal.
Yes,
and then you stand over on one edge just to get them all in. Now, speaking of...
I think that's right.
Trout
Look, I
Hughes-
think this is going to backfire.
So I think
I can't see any women lovers of league, and there are many, being slightly interested in this lot.
Yeah. I'll give you a couple of names that should be there. Totally Ian Roberts.
Of course he should. Of course he should. Bruiser Bruce Maguire.
Bruiser Bruce Maguire, indeed. When you get, and let's face it, some of the old blokes still had one
Gary
counter.
Coyne.
Yeah, Gary
Coyne should be there.
Yeah.
Fully buffed.
Yeah.
Just
On the cover.
down the barrel, standing there as if he's just got out of bed, hair a little bit tousled, Gary just there, a little bit excited, maybe downstairs, down the barrel, Gary as he is. And don't tell me that wouldn't go running out of the shops.
It would. Unfortunately, the Trouty Hughes' consort in the Royal has said to us exclusively that, the players' pictures aren't beefcake images, but portrayals of the thinking woman's sex symbol. Now, it's just a long title. Matthew Ridge, Gary Freeman, Billy Moore.
Billy Moore!
Our flagger.
I mean, Billy Moore.
Woman's sex symbol.
Well, I've seen, many of the players have told me this, when they've been, in the horizontal folk dancing stakes, and they're a little bit tired, and they're not that much, keen on being on the tear because they've been out playing with mates and they're hurt. All they've got to do to bring about a pretty swift cooling off period is flash a photo of Billy Moore. It's if a maroon Guernsey is an aphrodisiac to get things going in the bedroom, Billy Moore is the antidote.
He's the cold spoon.
He is a cold spoon.
Now, I go further than that. 4 words there. Thinking woman's sex symbol. How is Narelle Hughes defining those words?
Yes.
Thinking seems to have lost all meaning.
Yes.
Woman seems to have lost all
No,
meaning.
it means
Sex
nothing.
has lost all meaning.
Well,
and symbol.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Symbol of nothing. I cannot take a rugby league calendar seriously if it is to ooze sensuality and sex, if Tugger Coleman isn't there. Tugger, doing what he does best.
Yeah. On the job.
On the job.
Look, there's only one forward as nearly as I can tell in this whole lot. Paul Harrigan. You got your Wishards, your Langers, your Fitlers, your Terry Lambs, well, Clyde, I suppose, is a lock. Your Smith, your Willie Kahn, your Matthew Rich, your Billy Moore, maybe another lock, your Goulet, second rower. And Freeman, I mean, what do forwards think of this? Surely there's got to be a march, a boycott of this organised by forwards. Because let's face it, forwards are fit. Where is the squirrel gripper?
Yes.
And don't tell me he doesn't get the women of Manly excited, Martin Bella.
Of course he does. Of course he does. Of course he does. Martin Bella's just got to poke his nose out of his front door.
To have him screaming.
Squealing like piggies saying, let it all out, Bella!
Royal Australian Trouser Club has adults-only adventurer weekends for the team man who wants just that little bit more out of life. Imagine waking up in a tent for one with a wild pig and a sharp stick. Imagine waking up in a bed for two with Iron Mike Tyson. Imagine waking up nude in a pit 10 kilometres north of Hawker with 17 wild dingoes and a dead rabbit tied to the bed float. Get in touch with the specialists, the Royal Australian Trouser Club, for the serious adventurer tired of being considered a joke.
Hey girls, W.G. Grace died with the beard still on, but was buried clean-shaven. So who's got the beard? The specialists, that's who. It would make a fantastic merkin. Hire it for the big night, and as an icebreaker, ask your bloke to have a talk to the original Deloitte's #1.
It attracts me to it, HG, and I know a lot of people will be travelling towards Seagull Stadium at Tweed Heads to view this game, is that there's no Guernsey being... They're playing just in boots and either a red or a blue bandana in their heads, around their foreheads. So it's a completely... I think it's the first. I think it's the world first of completely nude professional rugby league. I know there's a lot of amateur nude rugby league go on, especially around the south coast or just north of the south coast there. But to get absolutely full-on, buffed, bare, professional rugby league players, past and present, together, 26 of them, on the one sward, I think that's got... it's going to have people queuing as we speak, wanting to have a look at them.
It's only the king who could do it.
Of course it's only the king who could get them to do that. Of course. I mean, a lot of people said Neville Glover wouldn't play in the nude anymore. A wouldn't play anymore, and B wouldn't play in the nude. Well, of course, once the king put through the request, he's prepared to do it. And I think once Neville gets involved and Stan Jerd, I'm sure there are a lot of people who'd love to see these players of the past and the present, these extremely fit men, just going about doing their work and allowing you to see areas of the anatomy under stress. The stress that a leg brings to those areas of anatomy, especially, say, the scrum. I think people will see a lot of skill, they'll have a bit of an understanding of what the players have to go through. The thing that saddens me in all this, HG, is that no one's thinking, why did she feel the need to pack down with an uninteresting, boring, ordinary Texas millionaire? And it's because she was driven to it. Andrew, you can imagine what Andrew is like. You really have to redefine what you understand by bore with Andrew. And I don't blame her at all, but the palace will not accept that there's anything wrong in their own household. And I mean, the Queen has just got to look to herself now and think, hello, look, Charles, hopeless, he's never going to stay here just to stop him ever being king. The relationship with Di is we've got to lock them together on a Greek ocean liner with his friends, just so they stay within a country mile of one another, or we've got to confine her to barracks here at Buckingham Palace. You've got Andy and Fergie, who obviously just bed hopping, the pair of them. Sad thing being that not in the same bed. And you've got the third kitty, Edward. Well, who's what I would describe as a mystery man. I mean, she must be wondering, mustn't she? You've got to look to your own, and I blame the Prince. I blame Prince Philip.
I do too.
It's going to be him. It's all that rooting and tooting and hunting and shooting that's bugging him up. It's bugging him right up.
What worries me, what disappoints me is, look, I've always considered, the Duchess of York an attractive personality. I see no need for her to throw herself at the nearest balding pate that moves past the window. And believe you me, that's what happened. Sure, there was a dollar sign on the pate. It was written there clearly in texture colour as it zoomed by the window.
Yes.
But, on the other hand, she could have had anybody who wanted. She could have had, probably, I don't mean to cast, problems in this quarter, because there are problems there. If she wanted to, Bill Wyman would have been available. And probably had a vacancy on a Tuesday night over the coming months.
I think, in the next edition of Bill's Stone Alone, I think you will find an entry under Ferguson, S. I'm sure. I'm sure that'll be the case. I remember when, we were around there, HG. I mean, she was giving us the eye. There were certain suggestions being made. I didn't know where to look. I said, we better get out of here or we're going to be in trouble. I only took the photographic engagement because I knew there was a bald pate around that was satisfying her.
Well, that's the thing. I said, when we were there, the videos came out and it was horse racing. When that didn't work, the rugby league, there was very, very big hints being dropped in our direction.
That's right. A maroon Guernsey she gave me.
I mean, that's a bit obvious, the maroon Guernsey.
Certainly is.
It's a very, very big hint.
Yeah.
And with a couple of winks like that.
With a couple
and a
of
lascivious leer.
That's right. And then when she said, Roy, how about a buff party?
Big boy. Then you knew we were going to be in serious trouble.
Exactly. And she got out a few exotic oils. And said, we might oil ourselves up.
With the clothes on. See what that does. Roy, it is a difficult problem for the royal family because
you can imagine how Philip reacts to this when she comes in floozy style with the oil and the chrisms and the maroon Guernsey and the rugby league video and
talking cruets.
Talking cruets.
How the cruets, Plinch?
One of the bloke goes to ground with a gun
and
shoots anything that moves.
That's right. But the royal family, it's a sad day for them, unfortunately. However, I believe fundamentally that it might turn out for the good.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
Do you know what I mean? Because let's face it, they've been on the job like rabbits ever since they started this whole crazy idea of royalty off all those years ago. And, I think if they could get it out in the public, so as public could see it, I think they'd draw tremendous sort of strength and comfort from it to think that they didn't have to put up this farrago of lies and fantasy.
Yes. Look, I agree. I think it is time to knock down the walls. People...
It happened in Germany.
Yeah, standing around Buckingham Palace. I would like to see just all the walls come down and you see them getting on with their lives, totally buffed, just in the confines of the palace. But anyone can look at them doing anything at any time. I think that's the future direction. Obviously, that's what the coordinates are pointing towards.
And don't tell me it wouldn't be a money spinner, right?
It would be an enormous money spinner. All we've got to do is find people who are prepared to devote their lives to being looked at.
Yes, thanks very much indeed. King Wally Otto in the soundproof booth. And King, I was only a fourth in the pool midweek.
but it was the way you went about your work that had class written all over it. You captured with that swim the attention of a nation, starved as it was then of swimming success, and your efforts electrified our teams. Total commitment to the game, not only at the Barnet Pickardell pool, but around Barcelona and the rest of the known world itself. Your mind game was spot on, King, giving it 110%. Your commitment, your goal setting, your imaging, and above all, your arousal were all just tickety-boo. But when inside the last 100 metres you got on terms with your fellow competitors and gave them a grope in their Speedos, went the nut, applied the gouge, they gave them a thump and a fiddle and a bite and a back and a head eye all upstairs, would have brought the Spanish crowd who love all that stuff to their feet. And when in the final 50 you got a hand free and gave them all a squirrel and a Christmas handshake to go on with, and finally you boot up the date on that last turn, well, King, let me say on behalf of the people of Australia that it was a swim that asserted Australian authority down the deep end and vindicated your choice to train on, and it proved that age has not yet dimmed your desire. Congratulations, King. You turned our whole Aussie assault at these games around single-handedly. Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Olympians past and present, duds and medal winners alike, and welcome to Las Ramblas, Barcelona, for the games of the 25th Olympiad. Welcome, everyone, to the Triple J 5 coloured quoits in a row card table and the first Spanish ever This Sporting Life. It's a golden shower edition of the program this week, and no matter where you're camped on the Triple J network grid, whether you're sitting in the stands that surround this vast Montjuic auditorium, whether you're down the deep end of the Pickardell pool, your emotions are riot of frustration and anger, whether you're in the Bruce McAvaney's hire car having a fiddle, or whether you're plonked asleep on the lounge wishing the whole nightmare could fade from view, we hope you can stay with us on another weekend when too much forward to Melina.
I can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, don't worry, Snooks. We'll be together by October.
Oh, it's so horrible with you living so far away.
Yeah, well, I just hope he bloody well dies before I do.
Could these cooing lovebirds be Rose Hancock and Russ Hins, recorded on the Queen's birthday weekend in 1986 by the Queensland Armed Hold-Up Squad under the direction of Senior Sergeant Sir Terence Lewis? You be the judge. Phone the Roy 00555 line. It's a mere 27 cents for 35 seconds.
League lovers, it's on again this year as soon as the final hooter sounds. The Slave and Nelson end-of-season sortie to the great football battlefields of yesteryear. Retrace the steps of the 1914-18 Invincibles. See why the paddock at Gallipoli produced so many nasty injuries. Go over the top at the Somme just as they did on that pioneering tour. Take in the sin bin at Changi and see why the controversial decision at Dunkirk was rigged. On the way home, Roy and HG take you to the island battlegrounds of Rabaul and Iwo Jima. Then top off a memorable fortnight with the annual training run back over the Curator Trail with Port Moresby as the try line. As Bruce Ruxton says, I've shown a few people the door in the time, but this one will put colour on your cheeks. Don't put it off, Rooster Boosters. Ring Victoria Principal at home on 896 74532 and ask for Leon.
Our World tonight on TSL6 and the amazing success of Bartophiles at home and abroad. Our World asks, could it be possible that Mick Cronin, in the missing months of May 86 to June 87, was Gypsy Princess, the winner of the Nowra Cup, and who backed up and ran an eye-catching fourth in that year's Metropolitan? Did Albert Field win the Villiers in 1938, as he claimed when he retired from Parliament? And did Abdul Karim Jabbar actually run second last in the Kentucky Derby of 1968, as authoritative video track watchers assert? Bartophilia can affect people in different ways, but one thing all doctors agree on is that the syndrome has no effect on memory. Join us tonight on 6 at 9 for Our World, when Bartophilia is once again put under the microscope. Our World is brought to you by Football World Mayfield West, where being wet means being welcome.
When I hear your voice, I've got a jelly.
Are you jelly now?
What do you think, baby?
Yeah, so good for my brain.
Don't say those things.
Can't help it, baby.
Baby John does nothing for me.
Yeah,
Could these two voices belong to South Australia's Adriana Exanides and Victorian Liberal leader Jeff Kennett, recorded by a telecom scanner atop the Dandenongs in September of this year? You be the judge. Phone the Roy 00555 line. It's only 75 cents for 41 seconds.
You don't say there's much spirit to share.
Olympic spirit? Well, it's money, isn't it? Is there money to share? And I suppose there is. It's just that I can't see look at the history of countries post Montreal to make money out of Olympic Games. They're very, very few and far between. I think only one city's managed to make money out of it, and I certainly can't see Sydney making money out of it.
Also, join a community volunteers program to help with parking.
Unless we do it on the cheap. And I think we can.
Yeah, so do I. I think
billets. I think
billets.
they should be billeted out.
All sports played at existing stadium. I'd love to see the Sydney Football Stadium turned into a first-class athletics track.
Well, it is a first-class. Yeah. You've just got to put the lime out on the grass.
That's right. That's right. And the roundup, where the sandpit will go for the, the long jump. Thanks very much, Gary Honey. Now, how about this?
How about this? At the homespun Olympics.
The homespun Olympics in Homeport.
Olympics take us back to 56.
Go further back. Take us back to the beginning in Greece, where they were all nude and they didn't have any tracksuits or anything like that. That'd get people talking.
Of course it would. So you get all your 16 million athletes, or how many are coming. I'm sure there'd be families in Sydney who would love to have an Olympic
personality.
Stay with them for money. They'd make money out of it. You might get $50, $60 a week for food.
And
because Olympians eat a lot.
Queuing up at the door, can I have a geek at Flojo?
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
Of course.
And you'd have to charge admission, of course, things like that. I think that could work.
And you'd probably get a gift if Flojo did stay with you for a month. Sure, you get, say, $100 a week board. Oh, I mean, you could charge that, I'm sure. And I'm sure at the end, Flojo would leave you a little gift.
Yes, probably a set of spikes.
Or a teddy bear.
Now, obviously, this is the one I'd like to do, is join a community volunteers program to help with parking. Now, hang on a minute. I thought it was a very, very, very professional bid, and all of a sudden, people like me are going to be in charge of parking? The thing doesn't hold water. I mean, surely, if anything should be looked after in a very professional manner...
Parking should come first.
Oh, that's right. How are we going to get to these bleeding things if we can't take the car?
I mean, I don't want a bunch of amateurs bringing their own torches, shaking them in certain directions. Getting people
like at the Lithgow show.
Exactly.
When the trots are on.
That's right.
Go on, Roy, bring her in, park her in the middle here. Is that going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be Mickey Mouse.
Of course it's going to be. And those who know, if you know it's Gary on, Gary's doing Homebush.
Yeah, you'll be able to park
Gary,
right up the front.
In?
Yeah, that's right. Don't have to pay, right up the front.
Can I park right in the middle so I can watch Flojo running around my car?
And marshalling and other work at the event. I mean, hang on a minute. Are we going to have...
We're going to arm people with whistles just who turn up. A whole bunch of people just in a queue, in you come, whistle each, up the back, get them in sets of sixes, through they go. Can it work?
Now, I don't think it can, and also it worries me that, people like myself will be raking over the sand pitch when Carl Lewis comes in and watching him step on the board. I don't know whether I'm qualified for things like that. I think you have to have, university-style degrees for stuff like that. Also, we've got to wear badges, fly flags and display posters and promoting the bid. Well, that's a waste of time. The bid's in the bag already. And welcome IOC members if they come into contact with them through their work. Now, hang on a minute. Prince Albert of Monaco, you've got to come out here and have a look at the quality of concrete.
Do a quote on the plumbing at my place. And I'll have to say to him, Prince, while you're giving the quote, what do you think of the bid?
Casually. You drop a Stilson's on his foot.
That's right. Oh, sorry about that. That reminds me of the hammer throw.
That's right.
Interested in the Olympics, are you, Prince?
Yeah.
I don't think it'll work.
And Ed Devereaux says the first book he ever read was The Phantom by Lee Falk. And in particular, he loved the scene where the ghost who walked into a bar in Bengali and ordered milk for himself and water for his dog, and then was attacked by the Girk twins for being a sissy. Ed says that sometimes out on the boat, he becomes the Phantom, punching the Girks in the head and catching a plane to the States and climbing in through the window into Uncle Dave Palmer's place where Diana is living. He says when he's the Phantom out on the boat, he doesn't sleep on the floor. He ducks in to see if Diana's awake, and on the boat, she is. Come in, Ed, she whispers. Come in and show me what you've caught. And Ed Devereaux says the sailor's hornpipe is a dance about virility on the high seas. Ed adds that sometimes it's hard being a sailor out on a boat for many, many months with no one to offer comfort to. He says that in the war he found himself going for ages without ever seeing a woman, and that many of the blokes used to go a little bit silly. We used to draw straws as to who was going to wear the women's clobber we'd smuggled on board, and we'd dress up to the nines and wear the high heels and the lippy and rouge, and the blokes would do the hornpipe around the bloke who was dressed up. Sometimes blokes went a bit far and got a bit rabid and stuff and embarrassed themselves, but I never did. I'd just do the dance and go to my cabin for a bit of peace and quiet. When I drew the short straw, I'd dress up as the girl and then wear the gear back to the cabin when the dancing was finished and turn off the light and sit in the dark and pretend that my voice, as Ed the man, was talking to the woman I had sort of become. Geez, it was a strange time, the war.
Here's the entertainment.
It's just Debbie. And what is Debbie singing, Roy?
Hang on. I still call Australia home. Now, wouldn't it be marvellous if we could get images of the dead Peter Allen up on the screen singing with her?
Wow.
Sort of in the style of Nat King Cole. And,
Wouldn't that be tremendous? Do you
I
think
don't think
that's
that's
possible?
I don't think that's possible.
It's hard to hear exactly what's going on.
No, wherever I roam, I still call Australia home coming up. No, we still call Australia home, so it might be she. It's we, it's not me, it's we.
It wouldn't that be
Here comes
tremendous?
Peter.
Isn't this a moment to savour? They said that rugby league has no place for sentiment. I take that all back, ladies and
Let's have a
gentlemen.
listen to them both together here, right? See if we can.
Can we boost the sound a little bit on the ground, if we could, please?
Wouldn't it be good if they had a lot of dead footballers with them? You know, Dallas Donnelly and a lot of players who've left us, just in their boxes, being carried out.
Isn't this moving? From the other side of the grave comes the entertainment today. And won't it be tremendous when all the bandstand family have dropped dead, that they'll be able to come back and haunt us, and I use that word in the nicest possible way, and remind us of how great they were all those years ago, courtesy of the videos that Channel 9 have of those great shows at rugby league time. Gee, the league
They're forming a circle, H.G. There's some, oh, look at the old gladiators. Here's a lot of dead footballers. On Channel 9 these images are. A lot of footballers whose careers have gone, who have more yesterdays than tomorrows, set against, juxtaposed with Peter Allen and Debbie Byrne. It's very moving, actually. It's like it's death reaching from the grave and touching life.
He's pulling it in, into the grave. And I don't know, I mean, I can't. I'm overwhelmed, I'm speechless as it still goes on now. Peter and Debbie Byrne thrilling us with this song that Peter cooked up one afternoon over after he'd been taping a bandstand show. He never thought it'd work, and then all of a sudden he was in New York and Liza Minnelli.
Yes.
Well, you
might be a big finish here, H.G. This is coming up to the big finish. Is there going to be a harmony? Is she going to go to the harmony to Peter?
And isn't that tremendous?
Balloons!
As we see the balloon handlers now. And away it goes. Those balloon handlers, remember they were blowing them up from 4:30 this morning. She segued into waltzing Matilda.
Oh, the kiddies got to sing along now.
There's nothing like young, fit kiddies raising their voices in song to a dead Peter Allen with Debbie Byrne on top of the cake.
Oh, they're raising their hands together too, actually. Look at that. That would have taken some organisation.
They make it look so easy, don't they? But there's so
why
much
isn't the circle complete? Why are these kiddies... What's there a gap there? Sort of like Tony Priddle's teeth. Maybe that's what it is.
What an amazing spectacular it was this year. I'll have Greg Bamford officiating today in his first grand final. A tremendous effort for the whole Bamford family to send 5 of them down to the AFL yesterday and produce another 5 today.
I like the way he's got his shorts wedged right up the back crack there, H.G. It's a very good look once we see Bamford turn around. I think you'll see what I mean. He's either got exploring shorts or a hungry bum.
And Roy, we get to Khan about to kick off, or somebody's done something fancy to their face. That's Arthur Kerstler, isn't it?
It is.
Roy, he's a great league supporter over here, of course. We're thinking about league. He's always thinking he's the grassy granulate of Central Europe.
Central Europe,
when it comes to the league. And let's have a look at Greg's shorts now. We might be underway. He looks around. Thanks very much indeed, King Wally Otto in the soundproof booth. And King, once again you made the mountain your own last Sunday, and I was so very, very proud to be part of your personal pit crew. And when the officials, those powdering officials, waved the stop flag in what I described at the time as near perfect conditions for motorsport, yes, King, mark my words, near perfect conditions for motorsport. You were the only one of that whole motley crew who wanted to get the pedal to metal and go, go, go. I knew you'd set yourself for a blinder incidentally, King, when you pulled up on the starting grid and reached over into Big Dickie Johnson's crate and gave the boys' trouser trombone a good hard tweak, and the resulting high C was heard all around the course. And when the cars pulled away and you came back and Brocky's crate was still on the grid and you gave him a boot at the back door as he stepped out of his stalled Commodore, you were travelling, I estimated, about 160 kilometres an hour at the time. Well, I knew I was not going to be disappointed, and I was not. I cacked myself for the whole 4 hours, and the rest is history. And when the end did come, King, you were the only one left out there circulating at speed trying to scrape the door handles off. Congratulations, King. Congratulations, Bathurst. But sadly, no congratulations for Australian motorsport. It was indeed a black weekend. Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another 4 hours hunched over the form guide with the HB in the hand, stabbing our Caulfield and Melbourne Cup doubles on this Sporting Life. Today, it's an all-horse affair with a full-colour cut-out and keep join-the-dots picture of the horse of the year, Let's Elope, on a weekend when too much sport is barely enough. Well, my very good friends, what a week. What a week of magic, mayhem and mirth. To begin, at the beginning, it was the best and brightest and biggest week for television ever, and sport television at that. After all, it was the week that saw bringing together to the two finest minds and greatest personalities of our age, or any other age, at that. Last Monday, I was glued to the crystal bucket when Elle Macpherson went the distance with Yarn Event, and instantly you could see why Johnny Baird spent all those sleepless nights out back in the shed all those years ago, hunched over the glass tubes in a desperate bid to throw a couple of doubtful pitches across the garage onto the door in the first place. Best and Bathurst, and the committee calls off the big one just because a couple of sooks don't like it damp and couldn't handle perfect conditions. Sure, driving is a skill, I admit that. But so is aquaplaning, an equally valid other skill that deserves a place, a rightful place on the sporting calendar. And it's all very well, isn't it, for you, Jim Richards, to stand on the victory dais post-hooter and bag the crowd of average Australian rev heads who bothered to come along and watch the shambles you put on and participated in. It's all very well, James, to take the long Jimmy to them, describing them as a bunch of flaming Edgars on the doorstep, a pack of Stanleys on the steam, a gaggle of full-time carpet-laying Alfreds. It's all very well, isn't it, Jim, to get up there and lay the shag pile all over them from a great height. But, Jim Richards, this is the car-mad public of Australia who just won on a Labor Day weekend in New South Wales a good old-fashioned Holden versus Ford V8 war. When they shell out their hard-earned lolly at the gate, this crowd don't want to see a lot of what can only be described as dooner cars like Nissan GTRs and Sierras go round. They want grunt machines with a bit of poke up front where it matters. And let's not forget, Jimbo, my boy, while I'm on it, and I do know you do listen, Jim, even though you're probably in the car at this moment and dodging the reception, that the gathering you dumped on last Sunday afternoon in the gathering gloom is the same crowd that paid good money at the gate and stood in the wet to see you circulate on that pillow circuit in what I thought, as I mentioned earlier, were near perfect driving conditions until you couldn't do it anymore and pleaded, yes, that's right, pleaded with the officials to wave the red flag. It makes me sick. It makes me very, very ill that big names can get out of cars and clamber onto victory daises, turn around, pull the pants down and blow it out the back door all over the people who made the shambles possible in the first place. Tennis. And Melbourne last week, John McEnroe and Andre Agassi staged the greatest game of tennis ever since a big bullhead sat in the chair and bellowed into the court mic. 1 minute, please, players. Australian rules. At week's end, there was only one question the wallet hadn't passed comment on. As we rummaged around in the bottom of the This Sporting Life handbag, looking for a stray piece of green we could hurl in the Swan's direction, this stumper rose like a creature from the Black Lagoon out back here at the Hymns, stirring up a lot of old ghosts from the past we thought were long dead and buried. It's a recurring nightmare, I'm sure you have the same. It shouts from the depth of sleep, from the depth of the black ooze, from the depths of that delicate instrument we call the mind. It screams, can this really be today? Stay with us as we give substance to those shadows and drive a wooden stake straight through the heart, laying this flighty bugger to rest once and for all, sometime during the next 4 hours, here in the Hymns on This Sporting Life.
Well, I heard the term green explosions being referred to when it comes to the Gabba pitch. I've always enjoyed the Gabba pitch, I must say, over the years. The curating staff there, I think they do a tremendous job. And HG, it galls me that there isn't enough public recognition of the good work that curators do. And I take umbrage, especially at Channel 9 with their coverage, and even the ABC in the old days, about 60 years ago, when there was cricket on the ABC. Never once did you hear said, beautifully prepared pitch by the curator, such and such, such and such. Curator this week, such and such, such and such. Curators work their butts off. And don't tell me it's an easy job. You've got to know your churnisms, whether they be red or black. You've got to know a petticoat from a pedalfa. Every day of the week you're going out with testing the pH level or the acidity in soils. Every now and again you strike an alkaline strip amongst the acidity, and that buggers you up. You've always got litmus paper in your pocket that you're dropping in every now and again onto a blade of grass just to see its level of acidity. These people go through their lives without any recognition whatsoever. Don't tell me that Sarfraz Nawaz got 8 wickets in Melbourne in 1972. Those wickets were given to him by the curator. Don't tell me that Bloodnut Billy got a few wickets last year. Each of his wickets came from the curator. The curators do more work for cricket. They scored all of Slasher Mackay's runs. They got AB's last ton in Sri Lanka, and these people are given no recognition whatsoever. And I want to see this redressed, HG, because otherwise it's a pretty dull life being a curator.
You've got guests coming round for dinner and you don't know what flowers to buy. This is a bugger of a problem that has frayed many a pre-dinner nerve. The answer is simple. H.G. Nelson's Guide to Flower Arranging, the Slaven Way. Have the tongues wagging when the sherry is served with a wisteria, the port with a pittosporum, or the Wyndham Estate with a waratah. That's H.G.'s Flower Arranging, the Slaven Way. In your night to remember.
Hey bridegrooms, how would you like to get married in the cream Stumpy Boomwall when he scored his big ton against India? Yes, through the specialists Roy and HG, you can hire them in pristine condition, just as Stumpy left them on the dressing room floor. But why stop there? Why not have the best man in the tights Graham Murphy wore in Poppy, and the groomsman in Roger Rogerson's cardigans? Hey, you could even have the bride turn out in Lisa Curry-Kenny's togs from the friendly games in Auckland. Weddings, think the Royal House of Trouser.
In Sydney, wasn't it great to see Harry Troy ride a 20-1 winner, Midday Lady at Randwick midweek? Harry Troy is as tough as teak. There's not much of him, but by gee, he can clobber a horse. A beautiful little man, and beautiful to see Harry on the swing with the shillelagh at the point of the turn as the field sets itself for a run up to the judge. You can have your Matisses, you can have your Picasso, you can have your ancient treasures of Angkor Wat at the National Gallery, Canberra Way. Just give me Harry Troy on a horse that needs a good flogging. That's what I call art. Speaking of getting the town talking, which Harry did last week, Flathead have had the Illawarra on the wag all week. Roy and I got a bootful of the Todgers midweek, just after we'd seen Harry actually belt the living daylights out of Midday Lady. We got a bootful of the Todgers, and we had everyone green with envy when we had to borrow a tow truck from Guest Towing to drag one of the buggers out onto the Bellambi boat ramp. It was that big, I kid you not. At week's end, there was only one endangered species that hadn't been driven to the point of extinction. It was a dud fish. I don't know why I was put on the planet in the first place, but no good for eating, no good for bait, no good for nothing. Simply called, Can This Really Be Today? Stay with us over the next 4 hours as we drive the remnant of the species to suicide and see if it can do the Roman thing for us and save us from the embarrassment of having to bag it ourselves sometime in the next 4 hours on This Sporting Life.
I think the big thing they need to do is get those penetrometers worked out properly.
Yes, I agree. The science of penetrometing needs to get some boffins from the CSIRO to give it a good boot up the date. I know medical funds or, funds for medical research have been slashed in Australia, but I guarantee that no one has even got a budget item on penetrometering and where it can go from here into the 21st century. We're crying out on this program each week for science to come to the aid of the sport, especially racing, your basic science.
We had the linear accelerator.
Well, that was a good idea.
Yeah.
That was a very good idea.
We've got a linear accelerator.
For racing.
Why can't we have a penetrometer?
Well, we have got penetrometers, but they're jerry-rigged and homemade jobs. Have you ever seen one up close to you?
Well, I haven't seen the actual one they've been using. I think the biggest suggestion that we've come up with this week is the tool.
Ah, yes, of course. You know,
Get the feel.
I reckon what would be the go is to get, say, somebody each week to stand on the running rail and drop off, belly flop in, and measure the indentation. Then you'd have a comparison to guide, you know, the same person throughout history.
In an excitable state?
Oh, yeah, slope pointing north. And, you know, then you'd have a series of measurements around the course, so that, you know, you might say at the 100 metres, after the jump at the 3,200 metre, you know, you only managed a 2 centimetre indentation.
Yes.
Where at the winning post, you might have a full 17 centimetre indentation.
Sure.
At the, you know, 3,000 mark.
The sort of thing that people would like watching, too.
Well,
It'd be a very interesting ritual, seeing, you know, the chap do his flops.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, too many people are confused by this penetrometer test, but if you had a stock standard tool test...
Yes, you're so true, Stuart.
Pointing north.
Yes.
Today about punning penetrometers and little blokes jumping off, you know, running rails with the sloop pointing north, but let Roy set out the question and have a debate it.
You know, Harry White's hanging up the...
Yes, could Harry White become your tool?
Penetrometer?
Yeah, Harry White on the jump. Hey, did you see that race out there? Might have been Thursday. Restitution, I take you back to it. Harry White.
All the skills?
All the skills. Had a chance to win it. Pushy dancer.